A very, very good evening, and warm welcome to Dan Really Likes Wine. Thank you for joining us on this Monday evening, where, with apologies, you'll probably notice I'm looking like I might have worn one outside a nightclub at 3 in the morning over the weekend. Sadly, life is nowhere near quite so exciting once nudges over the age of 40, and that, unfortunately, is a little eye thing that flares up from time to time. In fact, the last time it flared up was in 2020 at the Laureus World Sports Awards in Berlin, and I spent 3 days trying to film sideways. So there we go. It has returned, and possibly it's returned from all the excitement. There was excitement at the Laureus Awards 3 years ago. There was excitement all weekend, and there is excitement today building up to tomorrow evening, because tomorrow is the third edition of the Dan Really Likes Wine charity auction. And it's an event that puts a smile on my face for a number of reasons. One of them is that we get through the event to support some really good causes. Reach for Dream Foundation. I sit on the Reach for Dream Exco, and we're able to help not just many children with life-threatening illnesses, but their families as well, with extraordinary experiences that give them some wonderful, wonderful memories to cherish, particularly on those thankfully rare occasions where the child in question does say goodbye to us a little later. It's a very heartbreaking but also uplifting organisation, one I'm very proud to be part of. So we support Reach for a Dream through the auction. We also support the Pinotage Youth Development Academy, which helps with a hospitality training base for young people in the Western Cape, and affords them the opportunity through a year of training to become somebody who can go and work in a tasting room, work in a restaurant, work in a hospitality space with a fair understanding of the world of not just waitering and restaurant management, but being a sommelier, the wine industry as a whole, and some great stats coming out of it. 91% of the kids who go through that course either into further study or into employment. So very happy to support there. And then for the first time this year, the Cape Winemakers Guild Trust, which ensures that our next generations of winemakers will not just be more representative of South Africa, but will continue this extraordinary winemaking tradition we have in South Africa and give opportunities to join the wine world to people who in the past might not have had access to them. It's a terrific platform, and the work that our current guild members do is remarkable. We're going to hear from one of them on the show today. Louis Strydom is not just the genius behind the wines of Ernie else. He is also in charge of the trust, and he'll tell us why this is so important. He'll also tell us why he is supporting from an Ernie else perspective, as will the rest of our guests. We've got some giant bottles of wine from the team at Klein Constantia, so Matt Day will be with us. We've got some super wine once again from Toren. Albie Koch joins us. We've also got an incredible stay. It was our biggest seller last year, the Farsight Villa at Tybosh, which is majestic. It's possibly my favorite place to stay in the Cape. Scott Willem Joubert joins us. And then from that wonderful Coates family collection that's been on sale over the last year or so, Roland Peens has very kindly extracted a couple of exceptional bottles from that and put those up for auction as well. So we'll talk to all of those guests, find out why they're supporting, what they've got up for grabs, and what else in the auction they might like to bid for over the course of this evening's show. It's Dan Really Likes Wine, brought to you by Norman Goodfellows. Thank you for joining us. We hope you will join us, if not in person, then online for the auction tomorrow. If you need further encouragement, we have 5 brilliant people to give you exactly that. But before we meet our guests today, let's have a quick look at some wine news. Well, this is Enzamaid. We've mentioned this once or twice in the past, but it is now coming very close. This is just over a week away. Next weekend, Luxury Safari, the night festival at Enzamaid. You can see from the decor in the back and the leopard that might almost be a jaguar. That is their night festival, the Luxury Safari. Enzamaid, I think, got onto the radar of many people last year when they suddenly popped up in a number of the Prescient Wine Mag reports, just the other end of Paarl, a very laid-back blue-collar lot who are producing some really interesting wine and producing some pretty good nights out by the looks of things. If you are up for a big Saturday to wrap up your month of November and get December going properly, then this is one for you. Head over to Enzamaid's website for a bit more detail and grab yourself a ticket or two for the Night Festival Luxury Safari at Enzamaid next Saturday. And tomorrow evening, I'm going to be talking about this through the course of the show. It is our auction. If you'd like to still get tickets, you can head over to the Norman Goodfellows website where they have them all available. It is the chance to come along. We've got some lovely wine. Alex McFarlane has supplied us with some of her very cool rosé, the Cinsault base. It's turning a lot of heads. JD and the Warwick team. We've got loads of bubbles from Black Elephant and a pile of magnums from Gerard Holden and the Holden Mance team. So big thank you to all of them for supporting us. There'll be canapes through the evening. It's 350 rand a ticket. And then the chance to bid on the auction and win all sorts of extraordinary lots, the details of which coming up on the show. It's fine wine, it's old wine, it's rare wine, and it's hospitality lots dotted not just across the Cape, but in fact one very luxurious trip up the Northern Kruger as well. So look out for those unfolding over the course of the show, or just head over to Strauss, have a look through what is online. And if you'd like to join us, tickets available at Norman Goodfellows. And then the Helderberg Fresh event, it's Saturday, the 25th of November. 4 hours in the Helderberg. This will be Roland's mate Higo directing traffic, not just sensational chefs. I think Bertus Basson is involved in this through Chorus, which sits very much in the Helderberg area. Lawrenceford will be leading the way with the wine, but plenty more to back it up. 4 hours to wander around, try some terrific food, and sample some wine from an area that is producing wine as well as it ever has. Helderberg Fresh, you can see there, helderbergfresh.co.za for more information. All right, on to tomorrow evening, and the eyes of the entire wine world very firmly on the Dan Really Likes Wine charity auction. So let's head straight in to 5 of our guests. We have with us in no particular order the man behind not just Taibosh, but also La Chante and Pig Valley and the sweeping Otto family vineyards presence in South Africa. Gee, they're doing a great job. Skalk Willem Joubert is with us. So too is Matt Day from the heart of Constantia. Roland Peens joins us, auctioneer extraordinaire himself and the second most influential wine person in his family, and Albie Koch from Toren. And I know Louis Strydom is going to be joining us in just a moment. Guys, a warm welcome. Lovely to have all of you on the show. And a big thank you to all of you because you've been remarkably generous. Headline Skalk Willem by once again giving us this incredible property you have up looking across the Helderberg at the top of Taibosh. But before I ask you about wine and about auctions, a question I think I can put to a few of the people on the show today. Skalk Willem, drop me back a couple of weeks. Tell me a bit about your Rugby World Cup experience in France and blending some Springbok support with some love of wine.
It was an incredible experience just to be there. Loved every single moment of it, but it was actually quite tough being in France with the hosting team bailing out. You know, it was not very hospitable environment to be in.
We'll take that one on the chin because we were the beneficiaries thereof. It was an opportunity to soak up that French culture and to enjoy an incredibly special time, Skalk Willem, and that's exactly what you are giving us in the auction in 2023. Last year, our biggest selling lot was the weekend at Taibosh. 8 people. We had a group of American guests who actually took that trip up a month or so ago and had an amazing time. They've already told me they're looking to bid on it again and come back and visit. There are many attractions at Taibosh. Your wine, Skalk Willem, is most certainly one of them. And the Taibosh story, in a very short space of time, has done wondrous things in terms of catching the eye of wine drinkers around the world. But it is supplemented by this rather sumptuous villa. For people who haven't been there, haven't seen it, tell us a little bit about the Farside Villa and what makes it quite so special.
I think it's the fact that it is on Taibosh. It's just about 200 meters above the winery. But if you stand on that property and you look towards your left, you see Cape Point. And on a clear day, if you look towards the right, you can see a ship leaving Table Bay. So it's incredible. It sleeps 8 people on suite, swimming pool, everything that you can imagine from a property. It is really wonderful to stay there. And you really have also a farm atmosphere staying in between the vineyards that is making the wine diverse.
You also have from the Skullvilla not just the view of Cape Point, as you say, on a good day, the view across to Table Bay and that sweep of a sunset down across the whole Cape Peninsula. You've also got more immediately a view of some rather nice vines, and it must be very special for you when you stand up at the top. Then you look down, you can see, as you and I have done together, the three different varietals that make up this Thai-Bosch blend, and get a real look at the natural material you're able to have so much fun with.
Yeah, it's fantastic. About 60% of our property is natural vegetation. So it's a very small area that is covered with vines. And I always say that if I take people up into the vineyards, once you stand there, you look over the oceans, and you're elevated about 450 meters above sea level, you fully understand the style of the wine that we produce here at Thai-Bosch.
Which is one very specific style. Something else the people who come and stay at Thai-Bosch will be able to access is the siblings, the properties that sit alongside of Thai-Bosch. And you've now created what I think is a very concise but really attractive package just down the road. Pig Valley, not only a superb restaurant, but some of the finer rosés South Africa lays claim to at the moment, and then drift a little further into Stellenbosch, and you've got Le Champ wrapping up what I think for now is the full package for Otto Family Vineyards in South Africa.
Yes, instead of having one property with 3 or 4 different wines, we've opted to have one property focusing on one specific style of wine. So at Thai-Bosch, we only make one wine, which is the Crescendo. And down the road from Thai-Bosch, about 500 meters, we have Pink Valley, I think the only winery in South Africa that is only producing a rosé. And then next to Albie at the Toren, we have the vineyards of Le Champ, where we make 2 wines, a Chenin Blanc and a red blend. So very concise and very focused.
And very successful as a result. I'm going to come back to you a little more about wine, but let's go to your next door neighbour and Albie Koch. What are your thoughts on these upstarts moving in next door, Albie, and making their Le Champ wine alongside you?
Well, I can only say we are a bit higher than they are, so that gives us our edge. Now it's actually a privilege to have see the cultivation happening next to us when they moved in, and everything gets done to the book, precise, neat, tidy, and it's nice to see the energy being brought back into the vineyards next to us. So we're happy to have Thai-Bosch as our next door neighbor.
It adds to a very impressive stretch of winemaking genius in your neighborhood, led by yourselves, as it has been for some time now, and a brand that's been quite hard at work, because over the last few years, there's been a lot of excitement. There's been an addition of things like the new Malbec. There's never a whole spread of dozens and dozens of wines out of Toren, but you have been quite specific in adding some very high-end, very high-profile, quite limited selection wines, just to give another dimension to what has been for some time, Albie, one of the aristocratic properties of Stellenbosch.
Yeah, Dan, it's like 25 years of running since day one, and you always have got the opportunity to add more and more and more, and there's opportunity that comes your way of adding another one. But we as a wine farm has to be focused, stay focused, and true to what our beliefs were and are and still is, and going forward. And that's why when we add something, it's not just basically because we feel like it. There's always a reason behind it, and that's why we opted to go for very limited quantities of a wine being produced, like the Book 17 Black Line, and the latest one, as you mentioned, the Patronus, the Malbec. So we still want to be seen or be recognized as a Bordeaux-style producer, not do everything to everybody, and stay small and stay focused and a boutique. And that's sometimes hard to do. The opportunities are always there to do more and maybe do a white wine. But our belief is that we are on a route. We've chosen a route 25 years ago, and we have to stay true to that route that we're on. And it's fun. And we also have to have fun during the course of this journey that we took.
There's a certain bravery, I think, to your pricing strategy, especially in the earlier days when you put out wine that it was considerably more expensive than most of the wine on the market. And even when you bring out new wines like the Book 17, like the Black Lion, like the Patronus, these are not inexpensive wines. They are justified, and especially you line them up against something equivalent in Europe, for instance, and you take the euro price, suddenly the comparison of price drops considerably, and you can see the value even more than you normally would. Is there ever a lump in the throat, a little bit of nervousness when you release a new wine? Think, yeah, I hope the market's going to understand what this is and realize that it does justify the price.
Yeah, I think when we do these things, it's not just because we thought that would be a nice price. We've done research, and we constantly test ourselves against the market, where we are and what we do, but also what the international feedback we get. If you ask me if we have to do it today all over again, I think I would be much more nervous, because when you're young, there's no gloves on. You take the gloves off and you fight as hard as you can to get above the wave. And but there's always a strategy when we do these things. Our wines does have the feedback now after 25 years of producing these wines, but they all have strategy in mind, and I think that our strategy worked out for us. And we can just continue on this route because at the end of the day, it's all about South Africa as well, and not to be seen as a cheap wine producing country. Of course, the quality has to be there, first of all, and then the price tag, unfortunately, has to follow on that same route of where the wine's quality is going.
You also have a brilliant piece of marketing in terms of the packaging, the wooden case that requires a key, and it's very difficult to use that key if you've had a few glasses too many, so it stops you opening the bottle at 1 a.m. when you think it's a good idea, and you should really be hanging on to it. My first encounter with the Toren was the Fusion 5, and it's exactly that which you very kindly added to this year's auction, Albie. We've got magnums of the Fusion 5, and even more importantly, from 2017, which is fast becoming my favorite vintage of the last decade for Stellenbosch Red. 4 magnums of one of your definitive wines, Albie. For people who don't know them too well, tell us a little bit about them.
Yeah, so the Fusion 5 has been the wine that we started making 25 years ago in 1999. It's a wine that's quickly caught on to the international as well as local market. And still today, it's true to what we do here at the Toren. We grow the 5 classic Bordeaux varieties, of course, led by Cabernet, Malbec, Cabernet Franc, Merlot, and Petit Verdot. And of that, we make the Fusion 5. And that's where the name comes from, a fusion of 5 varieties. And we've been producing this in the larger formats from 2000 onwards. And I always felt that the Magnum is a very unique bottle to give us as a gift, but also to savor and to store and to age in 10 years' time. And hopefully that will resemble now what we've given to the charity, that somebody that buys this can still save this bottle for a few years or drink it, but it can last. It's got the legs to go a few years.
And not only are you getting these 4 magnums that maybe drink one of them now, but do try and hang on to the other 3 a little longer. There's some grappa as well to wash it all down with. This sounds like a particularly homespun element, something you decided to have some fun with and create a rather unique addition to your range, Albie.
Yes, no, definitely, Dan. It's something that we born about 3 years ago. We decided, to keep the winemaking team all excited about stuff we do and how we do things. Let's add a bit of spin to it and produce a grappa, our first grappa. So we produced this 3 years ago. We used the 5 skins of the Fusion 5. That's why it's called Fusion 5 grappa. We've distilled them separate, and we're not ourselves. We actually have a master distiller in the name of Wilderer that does it for us. We then sit with them and blend it to more or less the same ratio as what the Fusion 5 consists of. And then we age it for another 3 months in barrel. So it's got a little bit of a yellow tint to it, a brand new French oak barrel bottle, and sell it. And also it's very limited. All the bottles has been numbered. The first year we did only 509 bottles, 500 ml bottles. So it's not a big project. It's just something to add to the what we do here at the Toren. And it is available in the market currently at very selected outlets.
And available in a quartet along with those 4 magnums of Fusion 5 on the Dan Really Likes Wine auction at Strauss on Tuesday evening. Magnums are a fair size. They're a great size of bottle. Even more substantial, though, bottles that are going to be heading to somebody, very fortunately, by the end of tomorrow, from Klein Constantia. Matt, some giant bottles. You've been enormously generous. You've also been traveling. We chatted quickly to Schalk Willem about his French adventure. It looked like you guys had the most remarkable wine tour early on in the Rugby World Cup.
Yeah, Dan, thanks. And thanks for having me. We were completely spoiled. And I think that the whole of the South African wine industry kind of flocked to France for a while. We didn't pick our trip as well as everyone else, and that we went to go watch the Romania game, but purely because it was in Bordeaux, which was fantastic. So we got a full week out where the red carpet was rolled out for us at Klein Constantia, and it's really nice to see that the international world, I mean, the likes of Le Pen, Angelus hosted us, Chateau Yquem, I mean, we stayed in the Chateau at Yquem, and we had their 3 Michelin star chef who did dinner for us. So it's nice to see that the South African wine industry has a little bit of sway in places like that. It's a once in a lifetime trip that'll never be repeated, which we loved.
I think Matt was one of about 35 people I had to unfollow on social media for a significant amount of time. It did look terrific. Thankfully, I will be doing a little of that later this week. I'll be dropping in at Angelus on Friday, so keep an eye out for some footage from there. Some good wine in France, but the really good stuff, of course, comes from South Africa and comes from you, Matt. One of the 2 bottles would have been amazing. You've given us 2 absolute crackers. What is on auction from Klein Constantia tomorrow night?
Perfect, Dan. So this year we thought we wouldn't do any Van Constance, and I'm sorry to the guys that wanted to get some. We put a focus into our other 2 wines that we make at Klein Constantia. Being on this show before, I mean, you know that I'm a Sauvignon Blanc nut. So we've put in the 2018 Klein Constantia Sauvignon Blanc in a 5-liter bottle. And I think looking at a Magnum is the perfect size to share if you're only one person drinking. So now we're going to a 5-liter bottle. At least you can have a little bit of a dinner table and spread it around for everyone. So 5-liter 2018 Sauvignon Blanc, which would be fantastic. The nice thing there is it's got a bit of age on it as well. And that's one thing that we're trying to push at Klein Constantia is Sauvignon Blanc shouldn't be drunk in the year of release. You should be drinking a couple of years later, especially with large formats. I mean, large formats age fantastically. So look out for that. That 18 is one of my favorite vintages. And then we have the 2016 Estate Red. And Estate Red is our only red wine that we do at Klein Constantia. And Wilk is the big focus for us. And there we're looking up at the likes of Thai Bosch and the rest of the Hulderberg. Fantastic vintage in that it's not a Bordeaux blend. We've got a little bit of Shiraz in it this year. And that's a 9-liter bottle. So again, share it around the dinner table or put it away for many years. It'll be very special wine to share. What am I missing, Dan?
Well, you're missing the fact that on top of 14 litres of wine, you also get to come and hang out with you, because whoever gets this, as and when they can get down to Klein Constantia, it's a cellar tour and a private tasting, which I suspect might include all 86 of the Sauvignon Blancs you're currently making.
For sure, I forgot about that. So the vineyard tour is a fantastic one, and I feel like the auction lot is completely underpriced in that it's 6 people, vineyard tour, cellar tour, and a tasting, and that probably works out to 500 or 600 rand per person, and you get these fantastic wines on top of that. Try come during the week, and I'll definitely show you around, and hopefully open up a big Magnum or something to share with whichever group it is. And then the guys can stick around for lunch at the bistro as well, and that should be quite a good day out.
It'll be a splendid day, and it'll be a day which, if you've won this, I can tell you, will be infectious in its enthusiasm, because once Matt starts talking, especially about Sauvignon Blanc, you can be there all day, and very happily so. And I suspect that if we are going to be touring, what people will have the opportunity to do is not just see those terrific views up the top of the vineyard, and they are magnificent. There'll also be the opportunity to have a look in some detail at the different vineyards that allow you to make these different interpretations of Sauvignon Blanc, and how a vineyard that's often just dozens of yards from another one affords you as the winemaker the opportunity for a completely different style of wine.
Yeah. What's it? Again, I can lecture you for hours on Sauvignon Blanc, and that's our big focus. But going into that, I mean, there's a reason why it's been quoted as being one of the most beautiful vineyards in the world. And I guess the reason why Simon van der Stel planted his flag in here in Constantia is because of the beauty of the land. And I think we only have realized recently the true potential of what the terroir is. And us as producers, and I guess the South African wine industry, has realized the potential. And just hearing about Taibosh earlier is focus, and do what you're good at, and rely on the land and the terroir to actually express itself. So yeah, get out, come visit Klein Constantia. I mean, we're not as high as some of the vineyards we quoted today. We only go up to 340 meters above sea level. And one of the spots in that vineyard tour is you get right the way up to the top of block 382, and you can see the whole of the Cape Peninsula kind of thing. You can look across. I mean, we're on the polar opposite side to that view from Taibosh. And actually, I really want to bid on that lot. I'd love to come and stay out in the villa on that side and look down on Wilka and Klein Constantia. So we're on the opposite side. You can see Cape Point on one side. We've got Table Mountain on the other side, and a spectacular site there. Very few people actually get up to the top vineyards, so come and check it out.
Well, maybe that's your perfect duet: bid on Constantia and on Taibosh. You'll just have to beat Matt to be able to get to that stay at Taibosh. Taibosh sits in the Helderberg. It is just around the corner from a place that generally forms part of my Taibosh tour. Whenever I'm staying there, we ensure that we get down to Ernie Else for lunch, both to play a couple of flop shots down onto the green, because Ernie has got a small golf setup, but also to enjoy a meal and to enjoy the bottle of wine that Louis inevitably arrives with, some special vintage he's dug out of his Vinotek to surprise us with. Louis, welcome back to the show. Lovely to have you on. The third person I've got to ask about the Rugby World Cup, because at one point there was not a single winemaker in South Africa. They were all in France. I know you were amongst them. What was your Rugby World Cup experience and your French food and wine experience like, Louis?
Yeah, good morning, Dan. Hope the sound is good and you can hear me clearly. It's been a bit of a Monday morning, but yeah, it was the French trip was really great. Rugby was there, but we're definitely in the middle of the week. We were there for the quarters and the two semis, and in the week we went down to the Loire and understanding a little bit about Chenin Blanc and tasting the lovely wines of Huet and Kremer and a few others that we tasted. So yes, as you say, we built it around wine, and that's the great thing about the French countryside and rugby. You know, it's two things that we really enjoy. Dan.
The love of wine and rugby brings us together. What brings us together on the auction is the love of this particular country and doing what we can to support it. Louis, you've been very generous again, and I know that your support comes from 2 points of departure. We'll speak about the Guild in just a second. First up, though, the contribution from Ernie Else. It is red wine heaven on the Helderberg, and that's exactly what you're sending our way for tomorrow night.
Yes, we've got the Magnum signature blend for Ernie Else, and you know that's lot number 3, and I see you've grouped it into some of the Helderberg wines that are all together in the grouping, and I think that is what really interesting about the Helderberg, that we really red wine focused, especially Cabernet based Cabernet blends with the Bordeaux varieties. And but you know, we've also got some white wines up like at Uvumira, where they do the Chardonnay, which is one of their expertise as well. So it's really interesting to see how the Helderberg can actually be quite diverse in its style from an aspect perspective, because it's you go from a north facing slope right into a east, more east-south, and a west-facing slope, where the west-facing slope has got much more cooler conditions than we have at Ernie else. But we've been making the signature blend since 2000 was our maiden vintage. And every year we've really focused on honing in our skills on producing this ultra premium wine from South Africa. And I still feel making this wine now for 23 years, because this was my 23rd vintage of the signature that I've made. I still learn every year and still trying to understand and that's the great thing about wine. You never think that you're bigger than the game. You never think that you're bigger than the system. Dan.
Well, the understanding of the Helderberg is something you have more than I think anybody else, given time at Rust and Freda, the Engelbrecht Ale space, now Ernie Else 23 vintages in and wonderful vintages therein, celebrating this whole Helderberg area. And you look at stories of late, Tim Hutchinson and DGB, their big investment in the Helderberg of late, the quality of wine that just keeps getting better and better. People like Skulk Willem and the work at Tybosch and at Pink Valley. I think it's safe to say that the wine and just the general feel of the Helderberg, Louis, has never been stronger, never been more exciting.
Correct, Dan. I think there's such great momentum now with the vineyards, the investment into the vineyards, and I think it's all results. You see the great wine coming from the property. Nobody really minds investing into something if you see a return on that investment, and I think that is what the Helderberg does, and that's why you see a lot of wineries and a lot of viticulturists and oenologists actually investing into the Helderberg, because this great terroir just keeps on giving. And I think and if you do your basics right and you look after the terroir, that'll definitely look after you. When I was at Rust and Freda, I always used to say, I'm because of Rust and Freda and the terroir that they have there. It's not because I'm a winemaker of excellence. It's the terroir that, in the end of the day, drives the success of any cellar, and that is what the Helderberg does. And it's so really interesting, so diverse, like I said just now, with these interesting slopes, angles, and elevations above sea level that make it really interesting to be actually relatively quite diverse. But we have this great diurnal effect of the Atlantic Ocean that sits on our doorstep, just 15 kilometers away from Ernie Else, this cold Atlantic Ocean. That's a massive impact on our macro microclimates, and that's for all of us on the Helderberg. Dan?
It is a terrific lot number 3, celebrating the Helderberg. It's all for a good cause, and as you can see from Louis' shirt, the Else for Autism Invitational, there is philanthropy is a very strong agenda for anything that Ernie and his team are involved with, and Louis is very much amongst that. And Louis, your own personal philanthropic strides take you into the Cape Winemakers Guild Trust, where you take your role as a long-time member of the Guild to help the trust to develop it and to oversee the work there. Tell us what that trust does and why the support of the auction could be so important.
Yes, Dan. Thank you for giving us that opportunity for the Cape Winemakers Guild Development Trust to be part of the Dan auction, and thank you very much for that. So a little bit about the trust itself. We're very focused on developing young winemakers for tomorrow's industry, and the focus is around graduates from University Stellenbosch or Elsenburg. We take them into a 3-year internship where we actually send them to guild members where they work for a year to hone their skills. I always say these young winemakers are BSc graduates. They are degree graduates from Elsenburg, and what we need to do is hone their skills and give them a great foundation to build their career on, and that is what we do. We pay their salaries. We mentor them. It's not only about skill development; it's about social skills as well. How to public speaking, how to manage stress in the workplace, how to do a proper wine tasting, and then we also send them in their second year to do a Burgundy vintage. And you need to be exposed to international wine. If you want to make great wine, you must taste great wine, and that is what we do with these protégés. And we take three per year, and then we take them through the whole process of making the wine. In the second year, then they move and they make actually their own wine. And I think it's important for these young winemakers to actually start understanding how the decision process of making a wine, and how do you think from a vineyard's perspective right into the cellar. We spend about 3 million rand a year on developing these young winemakers, and it's all about outcome. We have 35 winemakers that have gone through the program so far, and they are working in the industry, which is really amazing to see, and to see their development and their improvement over time. And every year we bring 3 new in, so at any one time we have 9 proteges in the program that obviously hone their skills with winemakers of excellence. And I think it's our responsibility as a generation of winemakers to lend our skills and to show our skills that we've built up over the years, and share that with the young winemakers coming into the industry, and giving them a great foundation to hone their skills. Dan?
And that is an added reason, if you needed one, to support the Dan Really Likes Wine charity auction tomorrow night. Not just terrific lots, but 3 really good causes. And there you can see from Louis, the Trust, one of those, which is going to benefit enormously. The auction is benefiting enormously from some international flair. It's not just extraordinary South African wine. We've got some rather high-profile international wine. Roland Peens has been very, very kind indeed. Roland, lovely to have you back on the show. No stranger to the world of auctions. You've seen a fair number of lots from this Coates family collection go already. You've given us some cracking wine. I'm very grateful indeed. Kick us off with the Californians, including, was there a 007 edge? Did I see something Bond-like in that trio?
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure to sell the Coates family collection, and they've been very generous once again to support this great initiative that Louis runs and the Guild runs. We see it in the industry all the time, these up-and-coming young proteges, and they really are doing great work. So really excited about that, and this is a great cause. So the Coates family, it was an enormous collection of wine, and we've been able to use some in the right way. And for your auction, Dan, and helped out by Strauss, we've put together a number of lots, all based around the Bordeaux theme. So you'll see that the Californian lot has got a magnum of Opus 1, which is one of the most famous Napa Valley wines. Yes, there's a winery called Bond, no relation to 007, but Bond is a very finely tuned Bordeaux-style red. A very good wine. And then Helianthus, which is another cult Bordeaux blend from Napa Valley in Magnum. So that's just one lot, and I see it's at a really good reserve price. So if the bargain hunters are out there, they should be chomping at the bit.
Yeah, give us just a little bit more on that Opus 1, because it probably is, correct me if I'm off track, but it probably is the most iconic wine that America has produced.
Yeah, I think it's got Mondavi behind it. It's got big names behind it. It's not as expensive as Screaming Eagle or Harlan, but they make a lot more of it. It's been made for a lot longer, I think, since the 80s, and really just classic. And we haven't been able to drink a lot of those wines in this part of the world, but if you try the Napa Valley wines from the 70s, 80s, 90s, they really are incredible. And the Opus 1 is a 94, I think. So these wines age forever. It's really in the 2000s where the alcohol started going up and the wines became much more big and powerful. Whereas these wines from the 90s, very classic, very elegant.
All right, so that's the first of 3 lots. We've then got a really, really cool Bordeaux lot at the end. But then let me check my details here.
Yes, so there's another lot, Dan, with a bottle of Masetto, which is the only Merlot I'll put to my lips, besides Petrus, of course. No, just kidding. Masetto is it's a bold, rich style of Merlot from this little patch of clay, very similar to that of Petrus. In Bulgari, in Italy, and very famous Antinori history behind Masetto. Often gets 100 points, very sought after, very expensive. So there's a bottle of that. And then a lovely case of Bordeaux from 2009 where the late Gerard Basset got together with some Michelin star chefs and produced a really nice Medoc wine in 2009. And there's a case of that. So a really nice case of Italian and then Bordeaux. And then the last lot is a bottle of Angelus and a bottle of Ausone, two incredible Saint-Emilion wines, which I think everyone knows quite well, but obviously very, very famous, long aging and classic.
And just to remind people, these all come from this vast Coates collection. You went full CSI on this. You brought people in to make sure this was the real deal. Every bottle of wine was not just in good condition, but it was completely authentic. You're buying the Angelus, you're buying the Ausone, you're buying the Bond, you're buying the Opus One. This has been carefully cared for. It's been looked after, and it's probably, unless you happen to be Roland yourself, this is probably going to be the biggest name entry into your cellar. Should you be the lucky bidder on any of these three?
Yeah, so when we had this collection to sell, it was many, many millions worth, and we knew that our customers were going to ask about the provenance, the authenticity, the way it's been stored. So, you know, we really had to taste a lot of wines, which was a tough ask. But we also flew in Michael Egan, who's a world expert on authentic wines, and he checked every single bottle, the punt, the label. Often he even had to cut the foil to check the cork on some of the really expensive wines. The fraudsters are becoming incredible at copying and mimicking these wines. So there are a lot of fakes out there, and so all the wines from the Coates collection have been checked, authenticated. They're the real deal. They're all in great nick. We've had many of them. So this is a time to buy these incredible wines.
It is indeed, and they're available tomorrow evening at the auction. Tuesday, it kicks off live at 7 o'clock. There are still some tickets available if you'd like to come and join us at Strauss, and those are available at Norman Goodfellows, or it is available online at Strauss. Roland will give us a final thought on the auction in a moment, but let me jump back to our earlier guests and get some suggestions from amongst the other lots. Albie, I'm going to kick off with you. You've had a look at the auction. You know what else is out there. What's caught your eye? What will you be bidding on tomorrow evening?
Dan, I think the lot number 57, the Outpost, I think there's no better place to enjoy a bottle of red wine when you're sitting in the Kruger and seeing the sun go down and seeing some animals at the watering hole. So my money will be on lot number 57.
I wish you luck, Albie, because I think there are going to be a few people chasing after that one. It is a cracking lot. Very quickly on the Toren story, 2023 somehow is almost done. 2024 is almost upon us. In as much as you can let us know what's on the horizon, what can we look forward to over the next stretch from Toren?
I think what's exciting now is that the 2024 vintage, we will be celebrating our 25-year anniversary. I've been here 25 years, so I think it's just good to celebrate that 25 years with some fantastic wines that will be released, some venues we will be doing, some dinners. So watch out for some stuff coming out your way early 2024.
All right. And probably some celebrations if I know anything about the team at Toren. Matt, you've already mentioned that you're hoping to put the Provenance Fund straight into a single lot and get yourself out to Tybosh. What else from that auction lineup has caught your eye for tomorrow night?
Oh, Dan, having just been out in Bordeaux and staying at the Chateau Angelus, that lot 54 that Roland was just chatting about, and the Ausone and Angelus are very special wines. It's a fantastic region. That's definitely what I have my eye on. Let's see what happens.
All right, lots of bids to be made. Similar question as to Albie, 2024, nearly there. How's the vintage looking at this stage, and what else have you got planned for us from Klein Constantia in the near future?
Perfect. So there's a lot going on. My big main focus at the moment is Wilke and Stellenbosch. So watch out for that. It would have been my third vintage as winemaker at Wilke. So that's really exciting. Obviously, we're coming out with a bang with the new Van der Constance. We're actually blending the 2021 Van der Constance today, or we have a blending session going on a bit later. So let's see what happens there. Van der Constance is always a big release from us, and it should be fantastic. In terms of the vintage itself, I mean, we've had a very cold, wet year. It's been very unusual. So we're anticipating a later season, but we'll see what happens. The vintage and the climate always kind of catches up, and the grapes kind of ripen according to the season. So let's see what happens. Anything can be better than the second half of 2023. So let's hope that 2024 is a better year.
It doesn't matter what it is. In the hands of someone like Matt Day, you're guaranteed some fabulous wine. Louis, the lineup on the auction. What are you going to be happily putting the Ernie Els reserves into once the bidding starts?
Yes, so thanks, Dan. You know, the lot number 20, but 54 was close on was a close second. So maybe I should just like push Matt's price up for the money coming in for the trust. You know, we have an underlying bid. Pushing up the price will be a good. So thanks, Matt, for the heads up. I'll push you on that. And then lot number 20, the Coach collection, also that Italy Bordeaux. I love, you know, we love Bordeaux up on Helderberg, and I will be investing into that. I would would love to get that into our vinoteque at Ernie Els. Yeah.
All right. And it's a superb vinoteque. I've been able to spend a bit of time in there. That charts the past of Ernie Els. What about the future? What's on the horizon for you, Louis?
Yep, 2024. We're expecting a great season. You know, we won the Best in Architecture and Landscape Award from the West Grow Wine Tourism Awards. And I think that's going to give us a great momentum for the season coming up. To showcasing obviously what the Helderberg and what wine consumerism is all about. And I think that's one of our focus points on the properties. People to enjoy wine in a really great atmosphere with class, and I think that is going to be our focus for going into 2024. And then vineyard wise, we've obviously with the heat coming through now, which is really great. Soil's a little bit on the wet side, so we've got a lot of obviously growth in the vineyards. We're a lot of summer canopy management needs to be done. So we're full steam ahead in the vineyards at the moment, especially Cabernet. You know, they bud a little bit later than the rest of the varieties. So we really got that push in our vineyards at the moment to manage the canopies, Dan.
All right. So you know what's to come, both in the auction where Louis is bidding and also what is coming from Ernie Els. Back to Schalk Willem before we wrap up with Roland. We know that already, Schalk Willem, you've got some of your winemaking colleagues hoping to bid on your lot up at Tybosh with that Farside Villa, which is just an extraordinary place to call home for a few days. If they're all bidding on your lot, what are you bidding on when the auction starts tomorrow night?
So I had a look at the catalogue, Dan, and it's a bit like asking a 4-year-old his favorite candy. I mean, there are so many great lots, and if I have to exclude my colleagues on the show's lots, I think the lot of recreation with Caroline and JC as your host, especially if you find yourself out in the Manus area, could be an incredible experience.
It is indeed a terrific one. Nobody does food and wine pairings quite like Caroline and JC out at Creation. Well spotted there. Schalk, again, I think you might have a bit of competition for it. I asked both with excitement and almost a little trepidation because you guys have already done so much over the last little while. If it's not wine estates, it's really cool wine bars in Stellenbosch. Is 2024 a year of consolidation, or are there even more magical additions on hand for the Otto family in South Africa?
There are definitely no additions. It is just trying to stay focused on what we do and try to prove on that. So far, the 24 season is looking great. One of the wettest and coolest winters that we've had. The vines are looking really, really good. So we're looking forward to the 24 harvest.
As are the rest of us, because we get to drink it in due course. Schalk Willem Joubert. If you haven't had a look yet at Farsight, do go and check it out online. The views are terrific. Roland, just to wrap up, we are very grateful as the Nickel Foundation to be able to host this auction and send some money the way of 3 very deserving causes. We're also very grateful for the platform, and it's a platform that you had a very big hand in creating. Strauss went from people who were very focused Art now becoming the primary platform for the selling of fine wine in South Africa. It's been a remarkable growth, and it's given us such a wonderful avenue to market for South African wine. And a big part of the reason I am both excited and confident for tomorrow is that we now have this market in South Africa that not only understands the online wine bidding space, but is a very enthusiastic participant in it.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. It's been a long journey, 4 years. We started off and the industry was watching to see what was going to happen. It was a bold move, but I think we've proved to everyone that there's a secondary market in South Africa, and it's exciting. Now, restaurants, private customers can buy more mature wines, unlike before. And we've actually seen it this year where restaurants are bidding and buying secondary market wines to put on the wine list, and the tourists are coming in and drinking more mature wines, and it really closes the loop. So we're excited by the platform. It's working really well, and it's fun, certainly, to bid, online bid and bid live. So excited about the future. It's just going to go from strength to strength and grow moving forward.
All right, well, let's find out what the auction expert when it comes to South African wine is looking at himself. I'm guessing for the sake of domestic harmony and bliss at home, there might have to be a bid or two on the Salvine lot, and a very worthy bid it would be. Jessica's wines are excellent. Other than keeping Jessica happy, what else are you having a look at?
Well, I'm concerned about one of them with Dani Statler. It doesn't come with a health warning. A braai with Dani in a big bottle. I feel sorry for that person. At least it's going to a good cause, but be prepared. That's not something that you can do every day, although Dani does. So that's going to be a really fun lot. There's so many cool lots. Check out the Nederburg Baroni 1973. That wine's in terrific condition, having tasted it. 50-year-old South African red. And then there's some Magnums from Mullinews. There's so many good lots. I think a good bid on all of them.
Indeed. And I'm going to be quite tempted doing exactly that as the auctioneer. It's the lots that have been mentioned. And then on top of that, there are bottles from Duncan Savage. There's some Magnums from Ardie Badenhorst. We've got something quite unique in the Surf Vintners Cup selection, where all the top winemakers who surf bring their own wine, blend it together, and make a wine that is found nowhere else in the world. And that is just the start of 58 terrific lots. And the ones that we've talked about this evening from our very special guests sit foremost amongst them. Guys, to all of you, thank you so much collectively for your generosity. What really makes me happy when we get to do this particular auction is the fact that almost without doubt, I think there were two wine brands who for one reason or another weren't able to chip in this year, but other than that, over 100 different brands have come on board to support, and that shows this remarkable community we have as the South African wine family, and you guys represent that brilliantly here today. So to Matt and your giant bottles and your adventures around Klein Constantia, Skulk Willem, the most wonderful villa, the splendid views and some terrific wine to match. Albie coming up for the quarter of a century, that Fusion 5 in Magnum, and the Grappa, which kicks a marvellous punch to it. Roland and that international wine that's got so many people excited. And Louis, not just the Ernie else, but also the Cape Winemakers Guild Trust, giving us the opportunity to help you to keep the wine industry flourishing, which it is. Thank you all so very much. I hope I'll see you online tomorrow evening. Matt bidding away in particular for that stay at Tybosh. And guys, thank you. It's been lovely having you all on the show. And thank you so much for supporting the Dan Really Likes Wine charity auction and helping us to help other people make a difference. It's much appreciated. And thank you.
Well done, Dan.
Thank you.
So, there we go. Roland Peens, the man who really got online wine auctions going in South Africa, together with Strauss. Albie Koch, almost 25 years at Toren, almost 25 years of Toren, with their 4 Fusion 5 Magnums from 17 plus the Grappa. Skulk Willem Joubert with a stay at Tybosh. Louis Strydom with not just the signature Magnum from Ernie else, but the insight as to why this is so important for the Cape Winemakers Guild Trust. And Matt Day, 5 litres of 18 Sauvignon Blanc, 9 litres of 16 Estate Red from Klein Constantia. Just a few of the many, many highlights of this year's Dan Really Likes Wine charity auction, supported by Norman Goodfellows and held in partnership with Strauss, either in person, and you can get those tickets still at Norman Goodfellows, or online. We'll go live at 7 p.m. on Tuesday evening. So register if you haven't already, if you're not there in person, and get bidding tomorrow night for 3 terrific causes through the Mickle Foundation. That does it for this evening. I will be back on Thursday, and I'm not exactly sure where. I just know I'm going to be somewhere in Bordeaux. I think I'm visiting Chateau Pichon Comtesse and Chateau Kerwin on Thursday, and then on Friday I should be at Chateau Figeac and Chateau Angelus for a bit of Bordeaux adventure over the course of the weekend. So tune in Thursday, find out where I am and what I am up to. Until then, make sure you're registered for the auction if you aren't already. And thanks again, not just to our 5 guests, but to people across the wine industry and hospitality industry in South Africa who've been more than generous in their support of the Dan Really Likes Wine charity auction. Have a great, great evening. Hope to see you online tomorrow. Thanks again. This is Dan Really Likes Wine, brought to you by Norman Goodfellows. Goodbye.